For this session. Today we are going to have the second session of the CICD Hanons. It's the continuation of the last session that we have about the tng-rep repository case. So the agenda for today is where we are, the environments, talk a bit about the Ansible, how is the organization of the TNG DevOps repository, how to see the logs in Raylogs, and how to include your component, in this case is tng-rep container, to be deployed in the environments. So where we are. Currently, until this point, we have in the pipeline the first part, that is the creation of the unit test, and the link with the Jenkins, and the generation of the containers. So until this point, we only have that part. But we would like to deploy our container to the environments in order to test against the other components, or to share our code to the other partners in order to start the real integration. Okay, so how can we achieve that? We have some environments, integration, qualification, staging, demo, but at the end, how can we, as a developer, how can we use it? How can we, what does it mean, integration environment, qualification, staging? So basically, environments are composed, well, it depends on the stage of the pipeline. The first loop in the stage, the first iteration in our code will be located in the integration. Okay, integration environment should be used to run our integration test, our unit test, our first smoke test, in order to guarantee that the container that will go through the pipeline will be okay. So how can we deploy our components in the infrastructure? We have two repositories. Our repository as a developer, that is TNG API Gateway, TNG Catalog, TNG, well, your own repository. But for the deployment, we have another repository that is TNG DevOps. Okay, in the TNG DevOps, we have all the playbooks needed to deploy our component in every environment. Okay, so this is the part that we have. We have divided into sides. So if you want to deploy your component through Jenkins using Ansible architecture, you need to have your playbook located in the DevOps repository. If not, Jenkins doesn't know how to deploy your container in every environment. So in this case, first, after you have your code already done and your container already located in the Docker local registry, in order to deploy in the environments, you will need to have the playbooks here. So the environments, as you know, we have multiple environments. We have a Aveiro environment, Athens, Paderborn, Dublin, Barcelona. How can we deal with that environment? So we have a list of environments. Okay, basically for the service platform, the thing that you need to know is that the integration of the service platform, the first loop, will be located in Athens. Okay, this is integration, but the first loop for the BNB will be located in Barcelona. The qualification environment of the service platform will be located in Barcelona as well. What does it mean? That the BNB in pre-integration and integration, we'll use the qualification environment of the service platform that is located in the same place in Barcelona. So you as developer will have will be located here in VPN clients. As you know, Athens is our central node for connection to the others environments. Okay. Any question until this point? Okay, excellent. So I would like to specify the environments per development of the platform. In case of service platform, the first loop, the pre-integration, where you will do the unit test and a smoke test, will be located in Athens. Okay, we are going to use this nomenclature that is pre-integration, pre-integration platform, service platform, and the place where it's deployed our container. That is, in this case, Athens. Okay, pre-in-sp Athens.5GTANGO.eu. The first loop always will be here for the service platform. Okay, the developer owns in the pipeline will configure this URL to deploy his container. So after the unit test and a smoke test, if it passed, when the developer merge the container, the code, it will generate not a pre-integration version of the container. It will generate an integration version of the container. So when the developer merges the code, it will be passed to integration. And you as developer should use the integration environment, this URL, to test your code from your PC. Okay, not use pre-int, because the reason of this environment, this is unstable. Okay, only when you merge the code, because all the tests has passed, it will be located in the integration. Okay, so when you develop your code, you have to use integration environment. Weekly, we are going to promote containers that are living in integration directly to qualification. Okay, and this platform in qualification, the service platform in qualification, will be used by the VMB, because the service platform is going to provide a stable platform to test the VMB. The reason is because if we promote unstable container directly to qualification and the VMB use that, then maybe the VMB doesn't know if the error is in the VMB or is the error is in the service platform. So we will try to promote or to have a stable version of the service platform for the VMB. That's the reason of the qualification. For the moment, we will work with these three environments for the service platform, and later we will try to deploy the staging environment and the demo. Okay, but at this point we are not in that position to have the staging environment. Note that the staging environment will use the same container that are being qualification. So at the end, it will be easy to have the staging environment and the qualification environment. And the demo environment. So for the VMB, it will be more or less the same, with the difference that the pre-integration environment have another virtual machine that is a VMB. Okay, pre-in VMB Ave, because for this moment the pre-integration environment is located in Aveiro. Okay, And when the developer merges the code, it will be promoted automatically to integration environment, and weekly, the same way we do in the service for the service platform, weekly will promote it to the qualification. So basically, this is the flow for the environments. Any question until this point?
Yes, Felipe, Elaine is here.
Yeah.
Good morning. One question. If the qualification environment is only used by the VMV, why is presented in both slides? I mean,
what do you say? This
yes, and
qualification?
on the previous slide,
Yes.
you said that the qualification environment here
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
is going to be used only by the VMV. So why is presented here? I understand that should not be presented at the second slide. I do this question just in order to better understand the purpose of having different environments.
Yes, the main reason is to not have unstable components to be used by the BNB. That's the main reason. So if we have bugs here, we don't want to have it. We don't want to have this service platform with bugs used by the BNB. So that's the reason why we have a service platform qualification for the BNB.
Okay, but this now this does not have to do with the BNB, but with the SP.
I don't get your question. Sorry, Eleni.
Yes, maybe I do not understand correctly some things. Let's continue and I will catch up. Thank you, Felipe.
Okay. So the VM with the pre-integration environment version for the BNB, and also the integration VM or the BNB will use the qualification. This graph is wrong. The qualification service platform. Okay, both will be pointed to the to the qualification service platform. Eleni?
Philip?
Yeah.
Yeah, go here. Yeah. You see both the per-interpretation and the interpretation use the qualification environment. So the use or the image get promoted to the qualification environment.
Can you repeat, Wu?
Are the per-interpretation environment and the interpretation environment are they use the qualification environment, or they after the image being verified in the interpretation environment?
In the pre-integration environment of the BNB and the integration environment of the BNB will have the service platform qualification. It's wrong.
Okay.
This image is not BNB. It's the service platform.
Well, actually, sorry.
Yes, Lenny.
Well, actually, the slide that you just saw with the three, with the VNV of the previous one, can you put it again, please?
This one.
Yes, this is the same as the previous. It's the same as this one. Is that right?
Yes, it's the same, but there are two flows because there are two platforms. One is the service platform, and the other is the BNB. We're developing two codes.
So I understand that the service platform also participates at the qualification, and the VNV also participates in the qualification.
Yes, because here in qualification, we are going to do qualification tests for the BNB.
Okay. So the third slide then, it now represents only the second one, but in reality merges both things, right?
Yeah. This is. Should be. Should be here, SP. Let me. This should be the service platform here. Will be.
So,
Yeah.
if I understand correctly, so the last slide is about the deployment topology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I want to represent here is that the pre-integration BNB environment and the integration BNB environment will use the service platform that is in qualification.
Okay, depends on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now I got it, Felipe.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So the you as BNB developer should use for your test the qualification service platform. Okay, not the integration or per-integration because they are unstable version. You as the BNB developer should use for your test the qualification service platform. Okay.
So the idea is that the VNV uses the most stable versions, possible versions of the service platform.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the idea. So the BNB developers should use the qualification service platform. But yeah. Okay. Is okay.
Yeah. If you go back to slide 8, so that when they merge and weekly or are they, is they weekly they happen automatically?
Yeah, it's a weekly automatically. Yeah, it is done by Jenkins.
So what you do weekly, do you tag the image with different version?
Yes, I tag the int with the qual. Okay.
With latest. Okay.
Here is in pre-integration is latest. When you merge, the latest will be tagged as int, and weekly we're going to tag the int for with qual that it will deploy in qualification.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question until this point? Comment? Okay. So, which tool we use for the deployments? So, as you know, Ansible is a very powerful configuration manager that is very extended used in some DevOps environment to have the configuration of your environment, and then with a simple use of a command, you can deploy one and replicate it a lot of times. So if you do it well once, it will be used to deploy thousands of the same version of your component, so or your deployment. Also, it will be used to have your configurations for multiple environments, and it works very well with our deployments because we have multiple environment, and it's very difficult to have the control of each component, each configuration. So with this tool, we can ensure that we have a centralized way to deploy our service platform in our multiple environments. So basically, in the TNG DevOps, that is the repository that have the playbooks of the Ansible, we have three roles. One is to deploy the service platform. The other one is used to deploy the BNB, and the other is used to deploy the SDK. So each role take into account 5 environments that are pre-integration, integration, qualification, staging, and demo. And also we have the host definitions. The host definition contains specific variables per each host. Later, we will try to optimize this kind of deployment and structure, because as you can see here, you have a host definition, so we can improve that, making more dynamic. Okay, so for now we have this structure, and we are working on the optimization during the time. So if we go to the repository, let me show you how it looks like. Okay. So basically, the organization of the repository, as I commented, have the host and variables. This is the folder host vars. Then you have roles. Inside the role folder, you have a role folder for the service platform, the role for the SDK and the VMB. And also you have some utilities. Okay, so where let me go to the slide. Yeah. Okay, where do you need to put your component? If you develop a component, you should go to the roles and see if the component is for the VMB, or depending on if the component is for the VMB or the service platform, you should go to the right folder, for instance, service platform, and create a new YAML file, like one of this one, for instance, the portal. Okay, so this is a playbook to deploy the portal, and as you can see here, we have variables that are located in the host vars. Okay, we define the host var with this to fill these variables. For instance, the Docker network name, the repository, the tng portal, the version of the container, in case we want to deploy an integration. So here it will be replaced by int. If we want to deploy, if we want to use the local Docker repository, we set here registries on tng-rep.eu, or in case if we deploy outside of our environment, environments, we could use an tng dev. So this kind of personalization we do here in host vars, where we have all the VMs, okay, that we are going to use it to the deployments. And for instance, here you can see the variables. For instance, we saw that Docker network name, here is Tango, version is latest because this host var is pre-integration, so we use the latest. The repository is the local Docker repository, and user and passwords. Okay, it's the default user password. We should hide this this user password to not have it in in the GitHub. So there is a strategy to hide it. We are working on it. It's not so complicated. It's using a module of the Ansible. Okay, but what you need to know is basically where to put your small playbook. Okay, something like this. You can reuse one of these, and then after you did that, you need to include in the main. Okay, the main file will have the import to your file in order to deploy in this order. So this is sequential. So if you need to deploy your container after the license manager, for instance, you can put it here. Okay, include this line, import task, and the name of your of your file that contains the playbook. Okay. So, any question until this point?
So, Felipe, this is Marius.
Hey, Marius. Hello.
So, hello. So the YAML file you said we have to create, we must create it in the service platform directory and then ask for a merge, or we use it in our repository?
No, you have to do it here in TNG DevOps and create a pull request. I check it in and merge it. So if later you want to change the ports or add more environment variables, like let me show you one that have multiple environment variables, for instance, this one. You know, you have the environment variables. You have the list here, right? So if you want to add a new one environment variable, for example, you want to use the catalog, so you have an environment variable of the catalog, and you set here the URL. Okay, so this URL could be a variable if we have like this, a variable like this, to use it or local catalog or remote catalog. So if you know that this variable can change, just set as a variable, and then this variable you have to include it in the host var, depending on the environment that you want to use it to deploy it. Okay.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Now we are going to see the gray logs. Gray logs is a powerful tool that we use it in Sonata, and now we are going to use it in Tango to aggregate all the logs that are producing our containers, because there are a lot of containers, and each container produces a lot of logs. It sometimes is very difficult to correlate the information. Okay, so with this tool, you have a timestamp, and you can make search based on the name of your container, based on the source that is the server that is producing this log. You can search text in the logs. Okay, so by this way, if something went wrong, you can make the search and find it and fix it. So the search bar, you have the time. Okay, search in the last 5 minutes. You can change this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 3 days, 15 days ago, and see if something went wrong or if something is happening, not at the moment, but 15 days ago. So you can set some filters. I put some examples here. One, if this filter can be pasted here in the search query. So you find by container name, for instance, on SP abstract, and source. So you use these operators to use both, or that match this condition and this condition, or maybe you can use this to have the logs for two containers, is this condition or this condition. So you will have the logs of some SP infrastructure and service lifecycle manager. If you put here or, it will be exclusive because you cannot have two different containers. You know? So it should be with and, with or. If you want to see the logs of some infrastructure, for instance, that are producing the in server tree, integration server tree, you have to put the operator and. So let me show you. Yeah.
Yes, yes. One, it's me again. How are we sure that our logs are presented by gray logs? Do we have to make a specific configuration so as to put them there? Let's say, are they taken directly from the Jenkins?
Yes, you have to configure. Let me go to the next slide. you have to configure here in the playbook. You set the log driver as Gelf and log options, Gelf address, and the IP address of the Greylog system. Okay, by this way, the container will use the Gelf driver, and all that you put in the standard output, it will be automatically redirected through UDP to the Greylog server. In case of your container crash, you cannot access to there, but if the container sends some output to the standard output, you will see in the Greylog interface. So this is helpful if your container doesn't start and you cannot go inside the logs and see what's happening.
Okay, I do not know what exactly is the Gelf. Is something that we have to install. It is just a fact that we make a no-hap and give there the output. What exactly is the Gelf address?
The Gelf address is the IP address of the Greylogs. Gelf is the driver to convert the standard output in JSON in the JSON output that the Greylogs can grab and parse it to present in the standard way they use, Greylog use. So it's a direct driver. You only need to put these two lines in your playbook to have it in the Greylog interface.
Okay, so I understand that it gets it in an automatic way. I am asking because normally when I execute, let's say, something, I put the no-hap command, and then I make the alog rotation of the logs so as to see them and have a history backup and stuff like this. So I understand that in this case, it just gets the output from the terminal, let's say, and directly puts it in the Greylogs.
Yes.
Okay.
Because being your code inside a container, if you write the logs into a disk, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the only way that you have to see the logs is going inside the container.
Yes.
Or the other way that you have is to expose an, let's say, an URL that read that file and show it via API.
Great.
But if the container die, you cannot see the logs because it will be deleted.
Yes. Okay. No, I guess personally I don't have a problem with this because the idea is for debugging purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Felipe.
Yeah. So, Jose, I don't know if you have any opinion about the logging. We will need to redesign the way that we do the logging inside the containers, outside the container, where to send it.
Well, for lack of time, I haven't been able to address this, but let's follow the 12 factors, which is just print the output into the standard output or standard error. I'm following more and more this approach, and then tools like Greylog are able to pick this standard output or standard error and show it this way. Nevertheless, we should, taking into account the 12 factors exactly, we should treat probably in the future the log as a stream of events. I mean, this solution is working. It's a great solution. We have used it a lot in Sonata, and it has helped us a lot. But the current trend is to do more with logs, which is we may keep printing the logs into the standard output or standard error, not into a particular file, and then grab these and join these into a unified, let's say, approach of having logs as stream of events. because with the very distributed systems that we are addressing, with many containers, many microservices, it's really difficult to find some problem that is across a container. Okay, so treating the logs as an event stream is a better approach, I think. But for the moment, let's leave it this way, okay? And if we have time, we will improve this.
Okay, Jose, thank you very much for your comments. Let me. Okay, what we need to do to as a next step for our pipeline? So we will need to configure first in our Jenkins file the cloning of the TNG DevOps in order to then run the command to deploy in the pre-integration environment. Okay, and we need to add the promoting to container. When you merge your code, we need to add the section to promote your container to integration. So after the deployment in pre-integration and some smoke test, if the test passes, then when you merge, it will execute this part of the code. So after that, before make the push of this part of the pipeline, you will need to include your component in the TNG DevOps repository. So if you have your component already there, you need to clone TNG DevOps, include in the right folder, make a commit, then make a push and pull request, and if everything goes well with your with your playbook, then you can request for a review, and when it is merged, then you can push this part of the Jenkins file configuration to your own repository. Okay. So any question to this point? I'm going to do the hand-on part for the TNG repository. Okay. So first, I need to add my playbook of the TNG repo to the TNG DevOps repository. So I'm going to clone. Oh, well, I already have it here. Yes. So okay. Basically, what I'm doing here is to call in the Docker, the Ansible Docker, the Ansible Docker plugin. Okay, I'm using that interface to deploy a container with the name tng-rep, using the image based on the environment, based on the variable repository. Okay, and the version. Then the state should be started. That means the container should be in a started mode. Okay, there are other states in order to, if you want to stop the container or force a restart. Okay, so in this case we are going to use started and force the recreation. Okay, this two states, started and recreate yes, if it evaluate if the image was changed, then yeah, also with the pull through, when first it will pull the container from the from the registry. So if the image was changed, then it will force the recreation. That means the container in any in the pre-integration environment, in this case, will be replaced by the new version. But if the container in the repository wasn't changed, then it will not recreate the container. That's the point here. So your container will be staying as it is. By this way, we save time to not redeploy all the containers, just the containers that you are working on. Okay. So if you promote, if you in your first loop promote the tng-rep container, okay, so in the repository we'll have only a new container, the tng-rep. So when ANSI will execute this, only will update the tng-rep container. The restart policy will be always in order to protect that if the containers died, it will restart it again. The networking will be in bridge mode. Okay. And also the network, we are going to use a different network names. In this case, will be Tango. That is passed from the variable. And my container will have this DNS entry in the Docker DNS network. So if other container needs to communicate with my container, it can use tng-rep. Okay, that's the way how the other container can discover my the IP address of my component. Because in Docker, when you deploy a container, it will have a dynamic IP address. So making aliases in the networking, you ensure that you only use one reference for your container. So also I'm going to use the DNS server 8, and this part is important in some case, because if you want to share the code of your container, you should not internally but externally, you should specify the public port of your container. So you cannot have the same port used by other container, because it will be you will have a conflict. So the script will break at this point, because you cannot have two containers listen in the same external port. You could have internal port, the port that you want, but external should be for all containers different. Okay. Any question until now?
Felipe,
Yep.
is there a place so as to see all the external published ports in order not to, or there is a validation script or something, or we have to check all the YAMLs? How are we sure that the port that we use is not used by any other Tango container?
In the CICD environments, I have a link to the ports. 1 second.
Okay, it was also in the presentation we did the first time, so yeah. I can take it there also. Okay, thank you.
We have here the container ports that are being used. Okay.
Yes, actually we pushed also the policy manager there. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. Hello.
Philip, go here. I saw you have the tng-rep reference 3 times. I'm wondering, would you able to define a variable in this file, and then just use reference. You define it
This one?
once.
This one?
No, on the slides. Yeah.
On this
Go back to the
slide.
slides. Oh yeah, this page, yeah, this code, yeah. So you can see on the line 16, line 7, and line 6, they have the tng-rep. So wondering, is that possible to define a variable and just use reference?
And this is a name that I'm going to always use for my container. So if you want to communicate with my container via DNS, you should use this this alias, because this is a DNS entry inside the Docker network.
Yes, most of our components will follow the same convention. Basically, the name and the image name and the network alias name, they will be the same. So just wondering, that's possible to define a variable on top of this file and then just use reference. So you define once.
Where do you want to define the variable?
Change
this by a variable.
Yes, for example, like the same way as the repository or the versions. Yeah, you just define once and then you just use reference.
Yeah, we could, but that means you will need to specify. Well, we could do it. Yeah, we will need to change all these files. Yeah, for instance, yeah.
Sorry, Jose here. And these names do not change a lot, right?
No.
These names are basically the repository names. So I don't know. Let's wait. Let's put let's balance between what you're saying, Guo, is correct. Let's put it in one place, but at the same time, I don't expect things to change a lot.
For instance, the Postgres for monitoring use 2 alias, because some components are referenced by this, other are referenced by this, and this is hard coded somewhere. And you can change this this name in the component. But in case of,
I just try to explore the better way to reduce the duplication. That's all. Yeah.
Yes, you are right. We can improve this Ansible script. Three or more cycles. You know, the first cycle, second cycle, until we have everything with dynamic. No static variables here, but you know, variables. Okay. Any other question, suggestion?
I saw you previously demo the gray log. Would you be able to add the gray log to the per interpretation environment?
Yeah, let's add it here. I have added in this one. No, this one. Yeah, let me add it as well in the other component. Right. So let me add it. You can put the option in different order. You don't have to follow a specific order. Okay. You set the statements. Okay. So currently I have the Gulf. Yeah, everything is okay. So my file was modified, and also I need to include in my main.yml. Let me see if okay, I have it here. Nice. So let me make the commit. Okay, make changing the commit. Oops. Wrong password. Okay, now I'm going to, this is my repo. This is not, I think it's this one. Okay, now I'm going to do a pull request to have the last version of the coder. And also tng-rep. Hit the pull request. So now Jenkins will check my Ansible scripts. Let's wait some seconds until Jenkins start the test.
Felipe.
Yes.
I understand that the tng-rep that we just created, the Ansible handbook, it has no dependencies to other containers. Is that right?
I don't get it, Eleni, sorry.
Yes, I mean that if the tng-rep has dependencies to other containers, this should be included in form of environment variables. I just didn't get exactly the use of the environmental variables that some handbooks have in their configurations and some others not.
Yes, in case of which one? tng-rep, in case of my, okay.
Yours has nothing about environmental variables, but the other about the gatekeeper or something has. So this means that you do not depend to anyone, but the gatekeeper depends to many of
yeah, this container should be connected to the Mongo, right? This is the only dependency that I have. So in my Docker file, you see here in my Docker file, I have the environment variable. You can see here, main DB host. So I could put this environment variable in the my recipe, my playbook.
Okay, so it could be placed in both places, let's say.
Yes, but take into account that if the things that you put in the Docker file, it will be the default ones. If you want to override these environment variables that you have in the Docker file, you should pass in the instantiation of the container. So if I want to override this environment variable, I should put here. Okay.
Okay, so it can be placed in both places, but the YAML presentation here has higher priority.
Yes, because it will override the environment variables.
And the definition of these variables is done in the gatekeeper YAML.
Which variables?
For example, at the gatekeeper YAML, if you can open this, gatekeeper API.yaml, here we can see a lot of environmental variables. These are defined per container, let's say. Each one can put the name he wants.
Yes, look, in this case, I'm setting the container name. Okay.
Okay,
Because
okay.
the user management URL is going to use the DNS of the Song Gatekeeper user in the port 5600. Okay. So in case of license management, it's going to use the Sun, the DNS Sun JTK link, and so on. But also these environment variables are defined in the Docker file. So if we go here to the
While Felipe is just here, while Felipe finds the Docker file, the idea, Eleni, is that the Docker is something that you instantiate in every environment you want. Okay, so things that that do not change, variables that do not change at all with the environment, you can define them in the Docker. Okay. The variables that change by environment, you may give a default, like Felipe said, in the Docker, but then the Ansible scripts, the recipes, may overwrite those default values. In particular for the Gatekeeper, this is the Sonata version. We have learned a lot in these 3 years that have gone since we started doing this. So what I would like to have is not the repetition of the names, but this is something we will address for one of the next versions. So here you can see, as Felipe is showing, exactly the same environment variables defined both in the Docker and in the recipe. This is something that in particular for the Gatekeeper I'd like to change, but this is an improvement for later.
Okay, thank you, Jose. My question was mostly focused in order to see how we are going to define our dependencies in the Son broker, actually. So at a call with Felipe, some weeks ago, he indicated me a way to do it in the application properties of the policy manager, let's say. But now I foresee that we have to define it at the Docker file, and maybe at the future also at the Ansible handbook. Is correct what I am saying, Felipe?
I'm not sure if I get everything, but
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, I will define it in the Docker file, and if there is any problem, maybe I can ask you from Skype.
Yes. Eleni, look, in the Docker file, you will put the variables that you think that it will be used later, not defined by default. For instance, if you know that always some validate, for instance, will have as a standard some validate, you will put in your environment variables some validate. Okay, because when you start your program, your code, when you put your code running, maybe you will need these environment variables defined, and if you don't have this environment variable, maybe your code crash. So you define here in the Docker file that the environment variables that are standards, like some validate, some gatekeeper RTL. So you have the option to define later here in the gatekeeper API. But in case of catalogs, if we use an internal catalog, it will be some catalog repos. But if we use an external catalog, maybe this will change. So what do you define in the Docker file? You know, you define in the Docker file, take into account if the Sun catalog repo will be inside of the service platform. But in case you want to change it, you will need to redefine and maybe this should be a variable like this, put it in the environments deployment variables.
Okay, okay, Felipe. Thank you.
Okay, so I didn't specify in the repo catalog because the database is Mongo, so I'm going to use Mongo as environment variable defining the Docker file, and it is the same variable, so I not define it here, but I should. Okay, I should define it. I should define it, and also we will use we should use the GU approach, that is to have all the most environment variables defined as a variable here, and put everything in one file. I think this is the best approach. Okay, so let's check if the tng yeah. Okay, let me check. Pass it. Yeah. Okay. So currently, it passed. It passed the pull request, so I'm going to merge it. Perfect. So after this, now I can modify my repository to include the deployment. So let me open folder and go to the tng-rep.
Felipe, another question from me, please.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
After we create our YAML file,
yes,
you said before that we have to include it in the main.yaml. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
So in main.yaml, is there a specific place we have to have in mind for where to add our import, or we just add it in the end of the file on the main?
In the main, the deployment is sequential. So you have to see more or less where to put it in the chain. For instance, if you need the catalogs, you need to put your deployment of your container before the deployment of the catalogs. If you don't need any other, if you don't have any other dependency, you can put in another place. So I don't have preference, but basically it's based on the dependencies. Okay.
So we just put it before our dependencies.
Exactly. So yeah.
Okay.
If your container depends on a database, so you need to deploy after the database creation. But if other container depends on you, you need to put after the other containers deployment.
Okay.
Okay. Let me check. Okay. Now I'm going to edit the Jenkins file to add the part. It's too big. Okay. So as we saw in the after in the slides, we need to include the stage, okay, the deployment. Now I'm going to configure the deployment part of the of my container in pre-integration. So as a sequence, I build the container, I run the unit test, it passes the unit test, so then I publish my container into the local registry, and at this point is we stop the last session. So now I'm going to include here the the deployment. I'm going to copy and paste from your. Yeah. Let me copy this part. Deployment integration. Yeah. So the deployment should be going to clean the last pull. Okay, so then after I am sure that the folder doesn't have the tng DevOps, the last version, I clone again. If I don't do this in the second iteration of the pull request, it will fail because the tng DevOps exists. So I need to be sure that it's not there. So then I clone it. I'm changing I'm going inside the folder tng DevOps. That is what I was cloned, and run the Ansible script. So in this part, the things that you need to change is the role. Okay, so we are telling to Ansible playbook that execute the role depending on the platform. Role in this case is the service platform. Use the environment the environment list. Okay, and we are setting the target pre-int sp. Let me show you where exactly is this. So the tng DevOps, yes. The environment file is looks like this. So here we are setting the Ansible user and the FQDN, that is the DNS of the server. So I can use, I will use this file to specify where I can, where is the target, okay? Where is the VM that I'm going to use? In this case is pre-int.sp. So in this file, it goes to the pre-int.sp and use this configuration. So basically, is what Ansible do. So it will run the role sp, deploy my container, okay, and if it is deployed correctly, so I will need to add some smoke test. The smoke test basically is you can do a bash script that execute curls or develop it in PyTest. Okay, so it depends on you. Currently, I don't know, Jose, for version 0. I don't know if we have enough time to create a kind of a smoke test, but we will need to start developing.
I don't think we can. I mean, we can do one, let's say, very basic one, just as an example.
Okay.
But I don't think we will have to improve in next version. For sure, next version will have to have smoke tests, like uploading a package and things like that, but not for the moment, I would say.
Okay, okay. So now let me, I'm going to use as an example this. I need one more. Okay. So how can I promote the container to integration? So I have a condition here that is when the branch is master. So that means that this the pull request is merged into the master branch. I'm going to execute this. If the pull request is well, it is a pull request, it will not apply for promotion containers to integration environment. So basically, what I'm going to do is promote my container. This stage I'm going to call tng-rep. I will tag my container to tng-rep latest to tng-rep int. So now my container will have the integration tag, in tag, and I'm going to put rep here. Push. So that's it. My container is promoted to integration environment. So let's save this and push it. This is not the.
Just a note while Felipe proceeds. Please be as complete as possible in your commit messages, okay? Because this is something that goes public. And of course, don't use jargon or four-letter words, because this will stay there. The story is going to be made public, okay? So it's bad if our name is associated with some bad wording, and it's not useful if you just add a message such as testing or fixed or fixing bugs or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, it is important what Jose said, because in case of we want to use this code that we are developing to bring to the other open source project, your commit will be there. So it's a bad image, you know. So
Felipe, can you please execute git log, the command git log?
Yep.
There it is. Look at the messages. When we see, I'm not blaming Felipe, of course, but when you see several commits with the same message, this is a sign that you are not taking care of your comments very well. Anyway, in this command, you may have all the details of the life of your project. And there are even tools that allow you to extract those messages and build release notes automatically. So if you take some care in building your committed messages, you will have a clear history of the changes you made to your repository. Okay, so please take some thoughts before writing that small line and before hitting enter. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jose. Okay, nice. So currently they have 2 commits. Let me do the pull request. No, this is a wrong rebel. A lot of rebel.
Sorry, I distracted you. I think you didn't push.
Yeah, yes, but I wasn't the wrong rebel.
Or that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 1 commit ahead. Perfect. Pull request. Create pull request. Create pull request. So now my container is going to be generated. Also, in the meantime, I would like to show you one of the Jenkins job that I have created. So in case of something went wrong, or in case of you want to redeploy some integration environment, you have 2 ways to do it. First one is download the TNG DevOps and execute the command from your laptop. Okay. That means that you need to have a SSH key shared to the servers. Okay? But otherwise, as we are using SSH private and public key in the Ansible, it will not work if you don't have it. You only need to share your with SSH copy ID your ID, and then you can run the Ansible script. Or the other option is go to this URL and then build with parameters and select in which environment do you want to deploy. So in case if you want to deploy the integration service platform in Athens, you just go here and click on build, and it will deploy the environment. Okay. This is a very full job. Jenkins. So let's check if this is finished. Let's go to the job and see if it is deploying now. Yeah. So currently it's pushing a repository to the local registry.
No sé cómo manejar esto.
No, this is wrong.
Un paso que tenemos que hacer. Estoy esperando a los jugadores. Así, pero dice
This is my route. Okay, so look, it pushes the tng-rep, the catalog there. Deploying, okay, we're running deploying integration. It clone the tng DevOps, change the directory, and execute the code, the command. So currently, as you can see here, it's deploying the containers in integration. After the deployment, you will have a summary of the steps, and you can see which is the container took more time. You have some statistics and so on. So the next step is check if my container is up and running. So that's what the smoke tests have to do it. As we don't have a smoke test, okay? So I will check manually, but this is the end of the session of today. So if there is any question, from you, any suggestion? Okay, so look, currently is we are having a failure pulling the container of RabbitMQ. It says that internal server error. So I think they are changing this image. RabbitMQ.
Felipe, I saw that what you did was to launch the tng-rep container, but from the logs, if I understand correctly, it also launched many other containers. So every time that we run, let's say, our own container in the specific environment, we also trigger the instantiation of other containers also.
Yes, it will update the containers that are not well, let me explain better. If in the repository are a new image of the container will be updated. But in
Okay.
case of the container image is the same, the container will not change. The container will be the same. Okay, it's not a redeploy of your container. The only way to redeploy the container is that the container has changed.
Okay, okay, thank you.
RabbitMQ. The other day, these guys changed the image. So let's check if, as you can see here in they changed the image 2 hours ago, and now my CICD is broken. That's the issue to have external image in our project. But well, let's check if version 3 works. Okay, let's check if I need to go to team with DevOps request, create request. Yeah, this is the DevOps, the DevOps loop. You know, something went wrong, you fix it, you commit, push, deploys, wait for the test.
That's a perfect example and concrete example.
Yes.
Note that if we do not have this loop, several days, I would say, would pass without noticing that the Docker should have been, the container should have been updated and stuff like that, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, as you can see here, they updated 2 hours ago. So we didn't have deployed the container before this, and now that we deployed it, we have the failure. So we are detecting this type of bad configuration, of bad behavior every time that we do the loop. You know? Because if we keep if we say, okay, RabbitMQ version 3-6 works every time that I install the service platform, maybe it's wrong. So this is an example that not all the official image works when we use it. The other thing is that the power of the container is that you can change it very quickly. So it's only the only matter is to change the version. I don't want the 3-6. I want the 3, and it will be changed in the deployment. And also this affect for all deployment that I do. So, okay, merge pull request confirm. So if you need to trigger again your container, I was trying to enable this comment. If you do a comment here, test this, please. I don't know if there is a GitHub issue, a Jenkins issue, but the currently I'm working on it. The test is not triggered. So the solution of this is go directly to your job, and as it is a pull request, you can redeploy from there directly. Okay, this is the pull request. So basically, you click on build now, and it will take the tng-rep for exactly your pull request. Okay. Yeah, as we have cache in Jenkins, as you saw, it was very quick, the container creation. Now it is testing the container, triggering the unit test, which takes a bit. Okay, now it is deploying again the containers. Okay.
It looks like you have some network problem reached to the Google DNS.
No, Docker network issue. Yeah. Okay, guys. I think we finished for today for the session. I don't know if you have any other question.
A comment while people think of questions. Very good, Felipe. Another very good shot. Thank you. Right on time until 11. Of course, we have a lot of work to do to simplify things, to reuse things that we were using already in Sun install, things like that in the Ansible part, things like that. But the work that has been done is really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.